Hello and welcome to this explainer. If you're settling in to watch this right now, I'd actually love for you to just take a nice, deep, comfortable breath. Settle into your chair. We're going to have a really important and frankly, a very empowering conversation today. There is this fascinating moment that happens quietly in our bodies after we cross the age of 60. And the funny thing is, most of us never even feel it happen. There's absolutely no sudden alarm bell. There's no new ache or pain that tells you something inside has fundamentally altered. But deep inside your system, a very natural, very normal evolution is taking place. I want to tell you right out of the gate, we are not here today to talk about scary warnings. We're not here to read off terrifying medical statistics. We are here to talk about comfort. We're talking about taking care of yourself and truly understanding the beautiful, constantly evolving machinery of your own body. Because sometimes the real secret to protecting your health as you get older isn't about rushing out and adding something new to your routine. Often, it's just about understanding how your body's relationship with the things you already do every single day has naturally shifted. Okay, let's really dive into this idea. Have you ever stopped to wonder what actually happens when your daily pill, the exact one you've taken for years, maybe even decades, stays exactly the same, but your body completely changes around it? Think about your morning routine. You wake up, you pour your coffee or tea, and you take a little pill for your joints, or maybe something to help you sleep, or medication to keep your heartburn in check. For years, your body tolerated it beautifully, not a single issue. But turning 60 gently initiates what we call a silent shift. The tiny pill in your hand didn't change at all. It's the exact same chemical makeup it always was, but you did. And because your internal environment has subtly shifted over the years, that incredibly familiar medication can suddenly begin to act differently inside you. It might linger in your system much longer than it used to, or it might hit you with a much stronger effect than you're used to. I really want to reassure you right now, this is absolutely not a sign that something is terribly wrong with you. It is simply the everyday, universal experience of aging. Our bodies are wonderfully, miraculously adaptable, but they do kindly ask us to pay closer attention when the seasons of our lives change. So here is a quick look at the roadmap for our conversation today. First, we'll look at the silent body shift. Second, we'll cover hidden strain. Third, slowing down. Fourth, the aspirin paradox. And finally, taking back control. Let's move right into section 1, the silent body shift. We'll be looking at aging kidneys, liver, and blood vessels. Before we can even begin to talk about the pills sitting in your medicine cabinet, we really have to look at the incredible filtering systems working inside of you. I want you to think of your liver and your kidneys as the absolute hardest working, most dedicated employees in the busy factory of your body. For decades, they have been tirelessly breaking things down, filtering out waste, and keeping your blood perfectly clean. Turning 60 is a wonderful life milestone, to be sure, but in the medical world, it is also a quiet, crucial turning point for these internal processing plants. They naturally begin to pace themselves. They certainly don't stop working, but they don't rush the way they did when you were 30 or 40 years old. Imagine your liver for a second. Its main job is to break down the medications you swallow. After 60, it simply becomes a little bit less efficient at doing this. Now picture your kidneys, whose job is to filter those broken down substances straight out of your blood. They also naturally lose a tiny bit of their filtering capacity over time. So let's say it's a normal Tuesday morning and you take your regular pill. Because things are moving slower, that drug stays in your system longer. It's not being swept out as quickly. This means a perfectly normal dose can slowly, quietly begin to build up. Over days and weeks, it can actually act like a much higher dose, entirely behind the scenes. Now, before we go a single step further, I want to make one thing absolutely 100% clear. The entire goal of our time together today is simply awareness. You should never, ever stop taking any of your prescribed medications on your own just based on an explainer. We're just here giving you the knowledge and the tools to ask the right questions at your next checkup. Let's make this internal shift really easy to picture with a simple analogy. Think of a brand new sponge you just bought for your kitchen. When it's fresh out of the package, it is incredibly flexible, right? You can squeeze it tight, you can bend it in half, and it bounces right back into shape without a problem. It absorbs water instantly and wrings out quickly. That essentially is your cardiovascular system, your arteries and blood vessels at age 50. Now, I want you to think of a sponge you've used gently and lovingly for a long time. It's still a perfectly good, very useful sponge, but it's gotten a bit stiffer. It's definitely more delicate. It takes a little bit longer to absorb the water, and it takes a little longer to dry out completely. That is your cardiovascular system at 70. Your inner vessel linings naturally become a bit more sensitive to everyday stress. The arteries are just a little less elastic than they used to be. So when a medication enters this older, more sensitive system, the physical impact of that drug is naturally amplified. It simply demands a much gentler touch from us. I would love for you to remember this simple but powerful phrase: medicine is all about context. Truly, if you take away only one single thing from our whole conversation today, let it be this. The pills sitting right now in your medicine cabinet are not inherently bad. The doctor who prescribed them to you 5, 10, or 15 years ago didn't make a mistake. Those medications were completely appropriate at the time. But the context, meaning your beautiful, evolving, aging body, has changed. A profoundly important concept in medicine is that the exact same dosage of a drug that was perfectly helpful, incredibly effective, and completely safe at age 50 can become excessive and overly demanding on your body at age 70. It's all about matching the tool to the current job. Moving on to Section 2, Hidden Strain. Here we will be looking closely at NSAIDs and decongestants. Now, these are the very common, everyday medications you probably have sitting in your bathroom cabinet right this second. You might even grab them at the local grocery store without giving it a second thought. Let's talk about NSAIDs, which stands for non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. We're talking about incredibly common things like ibuprofen and naproxen. Now, let's be perfectly honest with each other here. These medications are wonderfully, remarkably helpful. When your arthritis is flaring up on a rainy day, or your lower back is aching after an afternoon of gardening, you take one of these, the pain eases away, and you can get right on with your day. They feel like an absolute blessing for joint pain. But inside an older body, they can quietly create a sort of hidden mechanical strain. To stop your pain, these little pills block certain enzymes in your body that cause inflammation. And that's the good part, for sure. But here's the catch. Those exact same enzymes also have a second, very important job. They protect the delicate lining of your blood vessels and help keep them nice and relaxed. When you block those enzymes day after day, you are also blocking that built-in protection. This leads to a subtle, persistent tightening of your blood vessels, all without ever setting off a single immediate alarm bell in your body. Let's really look at this comparison closely, because it's fascinating. On one side, we have NSAIDs, used for joint pain, and on the other, decongestants, exactly the kind of pill you'd take for a stuffy nose or a winter cold. Both of these offer fantastic intended relief, but we need to look at the hidden risks after the age of 60. Vessel tightening, fluid retention, and raised blood pressure. To really understand this, think about an older, slightly less flexible garden hose out in your yard. If you go and turn up the water pressure by adding extra fluid to the system, which, by the way, is exactly what these pills do by making your body retain extra sodium and water, and then you pinch the nozzle so the opening is tighter, what happens? The pressure inside that hose absolutely skyrockets. And the pump, which in this scenario is your heart, has to work incredibly, exhaustingly hard to push that water through the stiff, narrow hose. The tricky part is, you don't feel this happening. You don't feel your blood pressure creeping up day by day. You don't feel the vessels tightening. But your heart is quietly carrying that heavy, hidden burden around the clock. Now, I want you to imagine a very normal, everyday spring afternoon. Allergy season is in full swing. You wake up and you take your prescribed blood pressure medication in the morning, just like you always do. Later in the afternoon, your knee starts aching from a walk, so you take an over-the-counter ibuprofen. That evening, your sinuses are completely stuffed up from the pollen, so you take an over-the-counter decongestant, just so you can breathe and get some sleep. Individually, isolated on their own, these seem entirely harmless. But together, they are literally fighting each other inside your body. Your daily blood pressure pill is working hard, trying to relax and open up your vessels. The pain reliever you took is quietly tightening them back up and holding on to extra fluid. And the decongestant is forcefully constricting your vessels to clear out your nose. Your body is suddenly caught in this invisible tug of war, and the cardiovascular stress quietly accumulates. It's exactly this kind of combination effect that so often catches us off guard as we get older. Let's head into Section 3, Slowing Down. We'll examine PPIs and sleepers. Let's gently shift our focus just a bit to a very different kind of quiet change. We are going to look at medications that gently, almost imperceptibly, deplete your body's vital resources over a period of many years, or slow your physical movements down so gradually that you just naturally assume it's normal aging. So the crucial point here is understanding how PPIs, or proton pump inhibitors, work over the long term. You probably know these by names like omeprazole or esomeprazole. Honestly, they are fantastic for acid reflux, heartburn, and protecting a sensitive stomach. They seem completely and totally harmless because they bring such sweet, immediate relief from that awful burning feeling in your chest. But stomach acid actually has a very important job to do. It breaks down the food we eat so we can extract and absorb vital nutrients. When you take a PPI on autopilot, year after year, decade after decade, you severely block your body's ability to absorb things like magnesium, calcium, and vitamin B12. Why does this matter? Well, because magnesium is absolutely vital for keeping your heart rhythm stable and calm, and B12 keeps your blood vessels and nerves healthy. Quietly starving your heart of these essential nutrients over a decade leaves it incredibly vulnerable. And that brings us to this very true, very profound statement: the longer it continues without review, the more the underlying effects matter. Now, I really want to comfort you here. The solution is almost never to just abruptly throw your stomach pills in the trash and suffer through terrible, painful heartburn. Please don't do that. The solution is simply a conversation. It's sitting down and asking your doctor, hey, I've been on this exact same stomach pill for 5 years now. Is this still the best approach for my body today? Could we maybe try a lower dose? Do I need a different strategy altogether? Often, the smallest adjustments make a world of difference, keeping your body healthy without losing the relief you need. Next, we need to look at a class of medications called benzodiazepines. These are things like diazepam and lorazepam. We all know that as we get older, getting a good, solid night of sleep can become a real frustrating challenge, and anxiety can flare up out of nowhere, making these medications feel like an absolute lifeline when you're desperate for rest. They work by directly calming the central nervous system. But remember what we talked about earlier with the factory analogy, how the aging liver and kidneys take a little longer to clear things out of the system? Well, because of that slower processing speed, these sleep aids slowly but surely build up in an older body. The sedative effect becomes much, much stronger, and importantly, it lasts much longer into the next day than it ever used to when you were younger. This creates a really profound, hidden difference between having a calmly resting mind and having a completely sedated physical system. On the surface, you feel great. You feel less anxious, and you finally sleep through the night. But underneath it all, the medication is actually slowing your physical breathing down. Your breaths become much shallower as you sleep. And because you are so heavily sedated, you toss and turn a lot less, which means your overall physical movement throughout the night drops significantly. Less movement naturally means slower circulation, which unfortunately increases the risk of blood clots. And that shallower breathing, it means your oxygen levels gently but continuously drop throughout the entire night. It is very much like a car engine that is idling poorly in the driveway, struggling to pull in enough air and fuel to keep running smoothly. The strain on your heart silently increases all night long, yet when you wake up in the morning, you just feel a bit groggy and unmotivated. You might pour your coffee and think to yourself, well, I guess I'm just feeling my age today. I'm slowing down. But often, it's not the natural aging process at all. It's simply medication accumulation weighing you down. Now for Section 4, the aspirin paradox. We'll explore the tipping scale of daily prevention. For millions and millions of people around the world, this tiny, seemingly innocent little pill has been a morning ritual taken faithfully alongside breakfast and a cup of tea for decades. We've taken it without ever questioning it because for years we were firmly told by professionals that it was a shield to protect us. And this brilliantly illustrates how medical wisdom naturally evolves over time. For the longest time, the rule of thumb in medicine was simple and widespread. Take a low dose or a baby aspirin every single day, just in case. The foundational logic was perfectly sound. Aspirin prevents blood platelets from sticking together, which stops dangerous blood clots from forming inside your arteries, thereby preventing sudden heart attacks. That was the old rule. But the new reality, based on years of updated research, is that as we age, our internal balance completely shifts. Taking a pill just in case without a specific current medical reason can actually tip the scales against us. To understand this paradox, we really have to change how we think about blood clotting. We usually think of a clot as a terrible, frightening danger, something that blocks a vital artery and causes a heart attack or a stroke. And yes, in the wrong place, that's absolutely true. But clotting is also your body's ultimate built-in shield. It is the miraculous, instant mechanism that stops you from bleeding internally. As we naturally cross into our 60s, 70s, and beyond, the tiny microscopic blood vessels in our stomach lining and in our brains become naturally more fragile. They are just a bit more delicate than they used to be. If you are taking aspirin daily to artificially stop your blood from clotting, you are effectively stripping away your body's natural ability to quickly patch up those fragile aging vessels. Suddenly, the very real, very dangerous risk of a severe internal bleed in the stomach or the brain begins to completely outweigh the theoretical, just-in-case benefit of preventing a clot. The very thing that was meant to be a shield quietly becomes a serious liability. Honestly, I find it so deeply comforting to remember that science is always learning. Medicine naturally evolves. What was considered the absolute gold standard of care 20 or 30 years ago is not always the best, safest approach for your body today. If you've been taking a daily baby aspirin just out of decades-long habit, please don't feel alarmed or panicked. But do know that continuing a habit blindly can sometimes add unnecessary risk. It is perfectly okay. In fact, it is wonderfully proactive and incredibly necessary to confidently question your old routines. Let's look at our final section, Section 5, Taking Back Control. How to optimize your health routine. We have covered a lot of ground today, and I just want to pause and tell you how incredibly well you're doing by simply sitting here and learning this. Taking in this knowledge is half the battle. Remember, medications are not permanent fixtures that you are chained to forever. They are simply tools, and just like any tool in a busy workshop, they need to be regularly adjusted, occasionally sharpened, or sometimes put back in the drawer entirely as the job, your beautiful, evolving body, changes over time. Let's move to and see how this builds into a remarkably easy, highly practical plan for your daily life. You do not need a medical degree to protect yourself. You just need to take these 3 highly manageable actions. Number 1, review your medication list regularly with your doctor or your local pharmacist. Do not wait until you feel sick to have this conversation. Number 2, watch out for those tricky overlapping combinations. Keep a close eye on what happens when you mix your daily prescribed pills with over-the-counter cold medicines or quick pain relievers. And number 3, which is perhaps the most empowering step of all, start paying attention to the subtle physical signals your own body is sending you. What do these subtle signals actually feel like in the real world? Well, they don't feel like a sudden medical emergency, and that's why they are so easy to miss. They just feel like everyday life. Maybe you find yourself feeling unusually winded just from standing up and washing the dinner dishes, something that never used to bother you. Or perhaps you feel a strange, fleeting wave of dizziness when you stand up a little too quickly from your favorite reading chair. Maybe your energy just absolutely tanks completely by 2 in the afternoon, far worse than it ever used to. Or perhaps you notice your at-home blood pressure readings creeping up slowly, point by point, week by week. Please, whatever you do, don't just brush these things off, wave your hand and say, "Oh, I'm just getting old, this is how it goes." Listen to your body. These are very often the early, gentle indicators that a medication needs a tiny, simple adjustment. It is not necessarily a sign of inevitable physical decline. If you want to experience a truly miraculous, eye-opening shift at your next doctor's visit, I want you to grab a pen and write this exact question down on a piece of paper right now and physically take it with you to your appointment. Ask your doctor, clear as day, is everything I'm taking right now still appropriate for my current stage of life? You see, most doctor visits are entirely focused on reacting. You go in with a new symptom and they add a new pill to solve it. But asking this specific question completely stops the endless cycle of just adding more and more things to your plate. It politely but firmly invites your doctor to step back, take a breath, and thoughtfully look at the whole picture of your health. It shifts the entire focus of the appointment to optimizing your system, finding out what can safely be reduced, what can be tweaked, and what is truly still serving your wonderful older body. So as we wrap up our time together today, I want to leave you with this final, very personal, very important thought to ponder. Is everything you are currently taking truly still working in your favor? Your amazing body has supported you, carried you, and healed you for over 60 years, and treating it with the tailored, highly specific, and gentle care it needs today is the absolute greatest gift you could ever give it. Small, informed, gentle decisions made today are the ultimate key to a long, beautifully balanced, and healthy life tomorrow. If this explainer brought you some comfort, some new insight, or some clarity today, I warmly and genuinely invite you to share it with the people you love. Talk to your family about it, talk to your friends over coffee, and most importantly, talk to your doctor. Thank you so much for joining me, for keeping an open mind, for learning, and for taking such wonderful, proactive care of yourself. Until next time, stay curious, stay empowered, and stay well.